Okay, are you ready for the top 10 reasons to quit your job today, if not as soon as possible? I hope so. Be sure to stay tuned until the very end for number 1, as it's the most surprising and the best reason of all. See you at the end. Number 10, no room for growth or advancement. This is when there is no position to grow into or advance to. Often this occurs in a small to medium-sized companies where there is only one of each position in the organization. In some larger organizations, there are at least senior level positions to move up to, and potential career paths already mapped out. Career growth and advancement is an important issue today, and you're not alone if you're considering a job change for this reason. According to a State of Industry report in 2016, it stated that 87% of millennials say professional development or career growth opportunities are very important to them. It is important, really, for most generations. If you find yourself in this position, a few options might be: 1. Speak to your manager about taking on additional responsibilities or challenges. 2. See if there are any other positions you're interested in and see if you can't job shadow someone else doing that job. 3. Talk to your human resource person to see if there are any other opportunities within the company. And 4. If all else fails, it may be time to seek out other opportunities with other companies. Number 9. Unhealthy or toxic work environment. This type of environment is defined as any job where the work, the atmosphere, the people, or any combination of those things cause serious disruptions in the rest of your life and impact to your self-esteem. This could be a high-stress environment, co-workers that are negative, excessive hours, or bad leadership as an example. Bad work environments come in many different forms, but ultimately the true measure of the work environment is how you feel when you're there versus when you're away from it. These types of work environments often have people dreading work on Monday. In a new book by Jeffrey Pfeiffer, a Stanford professor, that is truly groundbreaking, found that unhealthy or toxic work environments are actually the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. In this book, Dying for a Paycheck, Pfeiffer's research shows that the mismanagement of workforces causes more than 120,000 deaths a year and accounts for 5 to 8% of annual health care costs. He cites conditions like excessive work hours, work-family conflict, lack of health insurance, and lack of control and autonomy. The best option in this situation is simply begin looking for a new job. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is worth your health. Number 8, your company is in financial trouble. This is when your company is struggling to pay their bills. There are various signs that a company is in financial trouble. Company layoffs, key executives leave the company, later bounced paychecks, hiring and/or salaries are frozen, and the company cuts pay or benefits. In 2017, there were 3,290 corporate bankruptcies alone. Knowing this, you could find yourself in this situation and will have to make a decision whether to weather the storm or jump ship. Often financial troubles persist for some time, and it is unlikely during this time there will be any promotions or salary increases. And if things go further downhill and get really bad, it is unlikely there would be severance pay should the organization close their doors. It is often a downward slide, and it's best to consider other options if you find yourself in this horrible situation. Number 7, pay is not competitive. A surprising number of employees feel that they are underpaid, but it may not be the case. When looking at pay, type of experience, level of education, and years in the field, all have to be considered. It's best to do thorough research before coming to a conclusion. According to the most recent Gallup poll, 43% of U.S. workers think they are underpaid. Whether this is true, the point is that almost 50% of people feel this way. If you're one of the 50%, it may be time to do some research. If you are concerned about pay, an option might be to perform your research by looking at 3 reputable salary sites. Then average the 3 lows, the 3 mids, and the 3 highs to establish a new pay range. Then factor in your experience and education to see where you fall within that salary range. Consider approaching your manager with your concern. As part of the discussion, it would be best to bring up what new skills you have acquired and/or value that you add to the department. Keep in mind, though, there are other companies out there willing to pay you a higher wage if your current company is not willing to work with you or take a look at that salary range. Number 6, your company's ethics do not align with yours. Ethics is described as moral principles that govern a company's behavior or the conducting of an activity. This can translate into a company appearing to not follow through on its promises, lack of honest communication, shady dealings, or failing to follow their own rules. A lack of ethics within a company affects the way employees do their job. If the leaders of the company break the rules, fail to follow through, or not tell the truth, people are left feeling a disconnect with what is right and how the company does business. This causes employees to lose faith and become discouraged or not see the need to work as hard in an unethical environment. According to a 2018 survey of ethics in the U.S., there is increasing pressure to disregard ethics guidance, and the rate of retaliation for those who reported wrongdoing more than doubled since the last survey. Most significant, the number of companies with a strong ethical culture remains stagnant. If this is the case where you work, it's time to look for another job. It's best to avoid what could become a very bad situation. Number 5, a bad manager or management. While there is no succinct definition of a bad manager, it might be best summarized as someone who overworks people, fails to recognize contributions, fails to develop people's skills, and fails to show general care and regard for their employees. Not surprising, this is still the number one reason people leave their jobs today. In fact, according to research from Bamboo HR, more than 4 in 10 people have left their job because of the behavior of a bad direct supervisor or manager. If you find yourself in this situation, see if there's an option to transfer to another department or another area, or apply for a completely different position outside of that department. You could always report that manager to human resources, but it is often a long road and difficult to prove. It is best oftentimes just to leave the organization or the department. Number 4, you're no longer feeling engaged at work. The feeling of disengagement is difficult. It's a feeling of being uninspired or the feeling of not wanting to engage or participate at work. At first, this may not seem like a big deal, but after a while, this feeling grows and becomes ever-present. In fact, according to Inc. magazine, in an article published on September 2017, 68% of employees are disengaged at work. If you're finding yourself in this situation, an option might be to look at both the job you perform and the company you work for and see what types of changes could be made to reignite your passion at the current job. Often disengagement stems from not feeling like there is growth or development opportunities, and therefore just simply feeling stuck. Taking a step back to reassess what is desired at this point in one's career may be a worthwhile endeavor in order to find out what changes need to be made. Number 3, lack of work-life balance. Lack of work-life balance can take many forms. Balance is an individual thing. For some, a flexible work schedule is critical to balancing family life. For others, a modified work schedule such as working 4/10s or coming in early in order to leave early for the day is very important to them. Others may consider balance meaning not working any overtime at all. Whatever the case, feeling lack of balance is a big deal today. Compared to 38 countries of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, the U.S. comes in at a low 30 for work-life balance. In the U.S., 11.4% of Americans actually work over 50 hours regularly per week, while they spend just 11.4 hours for leisure and personal care during the week. However, the number one country, the Netherlands, only 0.5% of people work over 50 hours, and they dedicate 15.9 hours for leisure and personal care during the week. Also, with technology being ever present, work-life balance also includes being able to disconnect from technology once a person is off the clock. 57% of workers felt that technology has ruined the modern-day family dinner. But at the same time, 40% said they were okay to answer an urgent call at the dinner table. If you're feeling burnt out as a result of the lack of work-life balance, a good next step is to determine what balance looks like for you. Then, talk with your manager about making some changes. If the company you work for is not open to your needs to implement balance and make some of those changes with you, it may be time to look for another job. Number 2, feeling stressed or overworked. Stress and the feeling of being overworked comes in different forms. Stress in the workplace can be defined as harmful physical and emotional responses that occur when the requirements of the job do not match the capabilities, resources, or needs of the worker. According to the American Institute of Stress, the main causes of stress are workload at 64%, people issues at 28%, juggling personal life at 20%, and lack of job security at 6%. Stress related to workload is another area that is very concerning today. As companies have cut back on administrative help, employees are picking up the slack of doing both administrative tasks and their own jobs. Often tasks and responsibilities exceed the standard 40-hour work week, which equates to feeling overloaded. In fact, more than half of Americans at 53% are burnt out and overworked, according to an inaugural survey of more than 2,000 workers by Staples Advantage. If you're feeling stressed at work or overworked, consider keeping a journal for a week and write down those things that cause you to feel stressed or overworked. After 1 week, review the journal to see what is causing the stress or the feeling of being overworked or overloaded. See what changes you can implement to relieve the stress. If you can identify why you're feeling overworked or overstressed, schedule a meeting with your manager to see what steps can be taken to lessen the load. Once you make the adjustment needed, see how it goes. See if any further adjustments need to be made. If after 3 to 6 months you're still feeling stressed and overworked, or worst case scenario, nothing has changed, it may be time to look for another job. And finally, number 1, fantastic job market. Here is the best reason of all to quit your job today and get a new one. The job market is very strong in the U.S., and if you have solid skills and a good track record, employees are desperately looking for good employees. It is an employee's market right now in the United States. In fact, there are more jobs than there are qualified candidates. According to Vox.com in February 2019, for nearly a year now, the number of open jobs far exceed the number of people looking for work. This is the first time this has happened since the Department of Labor has been tracking job turnover in 2 decades. Also, while nearly every industry now has a labor shortage, here's the twist. Employers are now having a harder time filling even blue-collar positions. What does this all translate to? Employees have the upper hand and more bargaining power than ever. So, if you're experiencing any one of the challenges mentioned previously in this video, if you feel it's time for a change, there's no better time than now to find a new job. And remember, there's no job worth your unhappiness. No job is worth your health. If you're in a position of dreading going to work on Mondays, it's time to leave or make an exit plan to leave your job in the very near future. Remember, change your job, change your life. Okay, how'd you like number 1? Pretty interesting. It's the best time to be looking for a job, so go out there and find your dream job. Be sure to like this channel for future videos because there's a lot more coming. I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.